The people, communities, community groups, organizations, and our institutions have to figure out ways to become more resilient. And one of the ways of doing this is by working across sectors, working in interdisciplinary manner. Cities have to have a means by which they can learn from each other's successes and less successful, if you want, initiatives in real time. Well, I think without a doubt, COVID-19 pandemic had a tremendous impact on societies, and I don't think it comes as much of a surprise that during COVID we discovered a lot of structural weaknesses in our cities. We discovered that there were many people who did not have ready access or easy access to services. Many cities, we discovered that there were many people who didn't have access to green or recreational space. We also found out that there were entire neighborhoods in many cities where people cannot find fresh food very easily. All these things were not that apparent before the lockdown because you had public transport, you had different means of moving around the city. But during the lockdown, all of these issues appeared very, very clearly. So a lot of the innovations we've seen recently, the more compelling ones, are the ones that are trying to address these structural weaknesses, trying to make sure that no one and no place is left behind in the city. And yes, we have many examples from the Guangzhou Award of how different cities in different parts of the world are trying to address these weaknesses. I think for example, there's an incredibly brilliant initiative from Guangzhou in Korea, where they found out that many elderly people did not have access to care during COVID. So they're trying to redress that problem now. In Indonesia, Bontang, we have a municipality that discovered its people who are physically challenged, handicapped people who really suffered greatly during COVID. And again, they're devising policies, strategies, and an app, a very interesting app, to help people who are physically challenged to be able to move around the city, access services, and get the kind of help that they need. We also have cases from other parts of the world, perhaps one of the most famous ones, Bogota, with the caring, their very, very effective strategy to help those who help others. Because during COVID, we found out that the people who provide care, they themselves were the ones that were suffering. Not just the ones they're caring for, but the ones who provide care. So I think there are many, many good examples from around the world that we can learn from, and that cities definitely can learn from each other. Well, I think there is definitely one trend that is affecting everybody equally, and that is the climate challenge, right? It doesn't matter whether you're from the global north or the global south, whether you're a rich country or a poor country, we're all going to be more frequently and more severely affected by climate change. And I think this is an urgent area. And I think, and I hope that we will be seeing a lot of innovative approaches to dealing with the challenges of climate change, because they are affecting our cities very severely. We've seen this just in the past year, how many cities have been flooded, how many cities are affected by extreme weather patterns. not to mention, of course, the disaster that is occurring now in Los Angeles. So these are issues that we have to deal with urgently and require, I think, entirely new thinking, new ways of identifying the problem and new solutions. Another trend I think is obvious is the development of AI, which is going to accelerate. And we are already seeing many cities around the world using various digital tools to help them address existing as well as future challenges. And I think this is a very exciting field because it goes beyond, let's say, the smart city tools, traditional smart city tools. It's really, I think we will see more and more examples of how cities are using digital tools to help them solve their problems. Well, again, whether it's climate change or whether it was a pandemic like COVID, I think what these challenges underscore is the absolute necessity for us to make our cities and the communities within our cities more resilient. The people, communities, community groups, organizations, and our institutions have to figure out ways to become more resilient. And one of the ways of doing this is by working across sectors, working in interdisciplinary manner, right? Going towards a systems approach. We can no longer look at, for example, the issue of water independently of energy, independently of our food system, independently of our transport system. All of these are systems that contribute to the livelihoods of people in a city, and they have to be looked at together. Right? We cannot just try to make a city more resilient by focusing on these areas independently one of another. They're all interdependent, right? They all depend on each other, and we have to look at them as an entire ecosystem. So I think this is also something that we are beginning to see especially through the Guangzhou Award, is that there is more and more thinking, more and more pilot initiatives, more and more attempts at adopting a systems approach to development. I think what is happening is a very fortunate confluence between the methodologies that in our concept of what urban innovation is, together with what's happening in the real world. I think what is happening in the real world today is demonstrating that we need to have mechanisms where we can share knowledge, expertise, and experience from what works in real time. We don't have the time to look at best practices, analyze them a few years afterwards, doing a full evaluation, coming up with policy recommendations, and then trying to influence what's happening on the ground. Cities have to have a means by which they can learn from each other's successes and less successful, if you want, initiatives in real time. And I think we are very fortunate in that the Guangzhou Award, which happens periodically every 2 years, we are very rapid in disseminating the lessons learned. And I think this is beginning to be appreciated by our users, by our partners, the local authorities and their associations. And I think this is the future. How can we work together to provide knowledge, expertise, and experience in real time?